The meeting stopped mid-sentence. That was what made the three men at the mahogany table go rigid. Not the sound of tiny palms slapping against marble in Seon Jum's private wing, though that alone was unthinkable. It was the sudden shift in their boss's expression when the nursery door at the end of the hall creaked open, and a child no older than 2 came crawling toward the room where men's fates were decided. Amanda's heart stopped. She'd turned away for 30 seconds. 30 seconds to fold a blanket, to breathe, to pretend her hands weren't shaking from exhaustion. Now her daughter was moving across forbidden ground, headed straight for a closed door that no one entered without permission. She couldn't scream,
couldn't run.
The rules were absolute in this house: silence, obedience, invisibility. When the guard stationed outside Seon Jum's study noticed the child, his hand moved toward his earpiece. Amanda watched him freeze, watched his eyes widen, watched him step aside as the door opened from within. Seon Jum appeared in the doorway. Tall, immaculate in a black suit so precisely tailored it could have been stitched onto his frame. His face was unreadable, all sharp angles and controlled stillness. His eyes, dark and fathomless, moved from the guard to the child crawling steadily forward, then finally to Amanda standing paralyzed at the far end of the hall. Her daughter didn't stop.
Didn't hesitate.
Just kept moving with that single-minded determination only toddlers possess, straight toward the most dangerous man Amanda had ever known. The world narrowed to that moment. Crystal chandeliers above cast fractured light across polished floors. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. The guard's breathing was audible in the silence. Then Seon Jum did something that defied everything Amanda understood about this place, about survival, about the man who controlled every breath taken under his roof. He knelt down, slowly, deliberately, lowering himself to the child's level with movements so careful they looked almost uncertain. Amanda's daughter reached him, grabbed the sharp edge of his jacket with chubby fists, and without fear or hesitation, pulled herself up into his arms. She settled against his chest like she'd done it 1,000 times before, like his heartbeat was familiar, like she belonged there. Seon Jum went completely still. His hands hovered for a moment before closing around the small body with shocking gentleness.
His jaw tightened.
Something flickered across his face, gone too quickly to name, but Amanda saw it. Confusion, recognition, something that looked dangerously close to pain. The child reached up and touched his face. Not tentatively, not afraid, just curious, exploring the sharp line of his jaw with tiny fingers. He didn't pull away. 20 minutes earlier, Amanda had been in the nursery trying to calm those same restless hands, that same boundless energy. Her daughter had been fussy all morning, fighting sleep, wanting to explore. Amanda had sung every lullaby she knew, walked circles around the room, bargained with a toddler who couldn't understand that Mama needed her to stay quiet, stay hidden, stay safe. This job was everything. It paid triple what she'd made anywhere else. It came with a private room, meals, security. It meant her daughter had a roof over her head, food in her belly, a future that wasn't shaped by Amanda's mistakes. But it also came with rules that were never written down because everyone understood them instinctively. Don't ask questions. Don't make noise. Don't let your child exist in spaces meant for Seon Jum's world. She'd broken all 3. Now she stood watching her daughter in the arms of a man whose name made grown men flinch, whose reputation was built on silence and control and the kind of violence that didn't need to be spoken about to be understood. She doesn't do this. Amanda's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. She cries with everyone. Doctors, strangers, even my mother. She doesn't trust anyone. Seon Jum's gaze lifted from the child to Amanda. Really looked at her for the first time since she'd started working in his home 3 months ago. Not through her, not past her, but at her. The silence stretched. Heavy. Loaded. Her daughter yawned, pressed her face against his chest, and closed her eyes. What's her name? His voice was quiet, controlled, but there was something beneath it Amanda couldn't identify. Her name is... Amanda swallowed. Her name is Joy. The corner of Seon Jum's mouth tightened. Not quite a smile. Not quite pain. Something in between. He stood slowly, still holding Joy with unexpected carefulness, like she was made of something more fragile than flesh and bone. The guards in the hallway watched with expressions that betrayed nothing, but Amanda could feel their shock radiating outward like heat. "She trusts you," Amanda whispered, because it was true and because the impossibility of it demanded acknowledgement. When Seon Jum finally spoke again, his words were measured, deliberate, and they changed everything. She shouldn't. But he didn't put her down. And Amanda knew, with the kind of certainty that settles in your bones, that her life as an invisible employee had just ended. Whatever came next, there would be no going back to the safety of being unseen. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. Amanda learned to measure time in silence. Morning began when the kitchen staff arrived at 5:30, their footsteps muffled against imported tile. By 6, she had Joy dressed and fed in their small room on the 3rd floor, away from the main corridors where Seon Jum conducted business. By 7, she was moving through the mansion like a ghost, tidying spaces that were already immaculate, existing in the margins of a world that pretended she wasn't there. The other staff rarely spoke to her. A few nodded in passing. Most looked through her entirely. She understood why. In a house built on hierarchy and fear, the live-in nanny occupied an uncertain space, too close to the private quarters, too visible to be trusted with the kind of quiet complicity that kept everyone else safe. She'd been hired through an agency that asked no questions about her past and offered no guarantees about her future. The pay was deposited into her account every 2 weeks like clockwork. The room was clean. The rules were simple: stay out of sight, keep the child quiet, never enter the East Wing where Seon Jum's office and private chambers existed behind doors that remained closed even to most of his guards. Amanda followed those rules with religious devotion. She memorized his schedule: early mornings in the gym, afternoons in meetings that ran long and tense, evenings alone in his study or entertaining visitors whose cars arrived without headlights and left before dawn. She learned to anticipate his movements through the house, to disappear into service corridors seconds before he appeared, to become so practiced at invisibility that she could clean a room while he was in it and he'd never know she'd been there. Joy made invisibility harder. At 2 years old, she was curious and fearless in the way children are before the world teaches them to be afraid. She wanted to explore, to touch everything, to understand why Mama always seemed to be holding her breath. "Shh, baby," Amanda whispered for the 100th time that week, redirecting Joy's attention from the hallway that led toward forbidden territory. "Let's stay here. Let's play quietly." But Joy had started noticing the man who moved through the house like a shadow. She'd seen him twice from a distance, once through the gap in their door when Amanda was checking the hallway, once from the 3rd-floor balcony that overlooked the main entrance. Both times, Joy had gone still, watching with that intense focus children reserve for things that fascinate them. Amanda pretended not to notice. Pretended her daughter wasn't developing a dangerous curiosity about the one person in this house they needed to avoid at all costs. 3 days after Joy crawled into Seon Jum's arms, Amanda was summoned to his study. The guard who delivered the message was young, uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. "He wants to see you. 4 o'clock. Don't bring the child." Amanda's hands went numb. She nodded because speech felt impossible and spent the next 2 hours trying not to throw up. At 3:50, she found someone to watch Joy, a housekeeper who looked at her with something close to pity and made her way down the corridor she'd spent 3 months avoiding. The door to Seon Jum's study was heavy oak, dark and imposing. She knocked once, barely audible. "Enter." The room was exactly what she'd imagined: floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk positioned to face the door, leather furniture that looked unused. Seon Jum sat behind the desk, still wearing the same black suit from that morning, though his jacket was draped over the chair back and his sleeves were rolled to his elbows. He gestured to the chair across from him. Amanda sat, keeping her spine straight, her hands folded in her lap. "The child," he said without preamble. "How old?" 2 years and 4 months. Her father? Amanda's throat tightened. Not in the picture. He studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes. You're afraid of me. It wasn't a question, but Amanda answered anyway. Yes. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite approval, but acknowledgement. Smart. He paused. She isn't. She's a baby. She doesn't understand. I know what she is. His voice remained even, controlled, but there was an edge beneath it Amanda couldn't identify. I'm asking why she approached me that way. Why she wasn't afraid. Amanda didn't have an answer that would make sense. I don't know. She's usually terrified of strangers. She cries when anyone tries to hold her except me. What she did that day, it's never happened before. Seon Jum leaned back slightly. His gaze never wavered. You'll continue your duties as normal. But I want the child kept on the 3rd floor. No exceptions. Relief flooded through Amanda so quickly she almost gasped.
Yes.
Of course. Thank you. I'm not doing you a favor. His tone hardened. I'm maintaining order in my house. The next time she enters a restricted area, there will be consequences. Amanda stood, nodded, turned toward the door. Amanda. She froze. If she needs anything, he said quietly, tell my staff. They'll provide it. She didn't understand the shift in his voice, the way those words sounded less like an order and more like something else entirely. She just nodded again and left before her legs could give out. The nightmares started that week. Amanda would wake in the dark, heart pounding, convinced she'd heard footsteps outside their door. She'd check on Joy 3, 4, 5 times a night, making sure she was still breathing, still safe, still there. During the day, she noticed things she'd trained herself to overlook before. The way certain guards watched her now with expressions that weren't quite hostile, but weren't neutral either. The way conversations stopped when she entered a room. The way one of Seon Jum's advisors, a man with cold eyes and expensive shoes, stared at Joy when he passed them in the hallway, his gaze lingering too long. Amanda started taking different routes through the mansion, avoiding patterns, staying unpredictable. She kept Joy closer, rarely letting her out of sight even for a moment. But Joy had other ideas. She'd started asking about the man. Not by name, she didn't know his name, but with gestures and sounds that made it clear who she meant. The tall man in the black suit. The man who'd held her that day in the hallway. Forget about him, baby, Amanda whispered, redirecting her daughter's attention for the 10th time. He's not for us. Joy didn't forget. Children never did. On a Tuesday morning, Amanda was folding laundry in their room when she heard it, Joy's delighted squeal from down the hall. She dropped the shirt she was holding and ran. Joy had escaped their room somehow, had made it halfway down the 3rd floor corridor. And there, standing motionless at the top of the main staircase, was Seon Jum. Joy was crawling toward him with single-minded determination, making happy noises that echoed off the marble and crystal. Amanda's vision blurred at the edges. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move fast enough. By the time she reached them, Joy had already grabbed Seon Jum's pant leg with both hands, was pulling herself up with the kind of trust that defied everything Amanda knew about survival. I'm so sorry, Amanda gasped, reaching for her daughter. I don't know how she... The door was closed, I swear. Seon Jum raised one hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Then, he did something that made Amanda's world tilt sideways. He knelt down, picked Joy up with the same careful precision he'd used days before, and held her while she babbled at him in her incomprehensible toddler language. She keeps finding me, he said, his voice so quiet Amanda almost missed it. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I'll put a better lock on the door. She keeps finding me, he repeated, and I keep letting her. Joy had her hands on his face now, patting his cheeks with sticky fingers, completely unafraid. Seon Jum's expression remained unreadable, but his hands were gentle as they supported the small body, keeping her safe from falling. Amanda watched something impossible unfold. Watched her daughter lean forward and rest her head against Seon Jum's shoulder. Watched him close his eyes for just a moment, like the weight of that small gesture carried meaning Amanda couldn't begin to understand. My sister, he said suddenly, still holding Joy, still not looking at Amanda, was 2 years old when she died. I was supposed to be watching her. The confession hung in the air like smoke. I'm sorry, Amanda whispered, because what else could she say? That was 23 years ago. His eyes opened, found Amanda's. I haven't thought about her in a decade. Then your daughter walks into my life, and suddenly I can't think about anything else. Joy yawned, rubbed her eyes, settled more comfortably against him. She trusts you, Amanda said, the same words she'd spoken days ago. I don't understand why, but she does. Children know things we forget. Seon Jum stood slowly, still cradling Joy. They can feel what we hide. He handed Joy back to Amanda with movements that suggested reluctance. As soon as Amanda took her, Joy started reaching back towards Seon Jum, making distressed sounds. No, baby, Amanda murmured, holding her close. We need to go. But Seon Jum was still watching them with an expression Amanda had never seen on his face before. Something raw, something human. Keep her on the 3rd floor, he said, but there was no force behind it. For her safety. From who? Amanda asked before she could stop herself. His jaw tightened. From everyone, including me. Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hallway, leaving Amanda standing there with her daughter in her arms and the distinct feeling that something fundamental had shifted in the foundation of this house. That night, Amanda couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark listening to Joy breathe, thinking about Seon Jum's confession, about the way he'd held her daughter, like she was made of glass and grief. Around 2 a.m, she heard footsteps in the corridor outside their room.
Slow.
Measured. They stopped outside her door for a long moment, then continued down the hall. Amanda pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting tears she didn't understand. In the morning, she found a package outside their door. Inside was a stuffed animal, a small rabbit, expensive and soft, the kind of thing Joy would love. There was no note, no explanation. But when Joy clutched it to her chest and smiled, Amanda knew exactly who it was from. And she knew, with a certainty that terrified her, that they were no longer invisible in this house. They'd become visible to the one person whose attention could either save them or destroy them. The gifts continued. A wooden puzzle appeared on their 3rd day. A set of soft books on the 5th. Each morning, Amanda found something new outside their door. Small things, thoughtful things, the kind of gifts someone chose carefully rather than delegated to staff. Joy loved everything. She'd line up her new treasures on the floor and babble stories to them, and Amanda would watch her daughter's joy, while her own anxiety grew like a stone in her chest. On the 8th day, Seon Jum appeared at their door himself. It was late afternoon. Amanda had just put Joy down for a nap when she heard the knock, soft, almost hesitant. She opened the door expecting a housekeeper and found him instead, still in his suit, looking somehow less certain than she'd ever seen him. Is she awake? He asked. Amanda should have said no. Should have protected the boundary, maintained the distance. Instead, she stepped aside. She just went down, but she's a light sleeper. He entered their small room like he was trespassing, his presence making the space feel even smaller. His gaze moved across the modest furniture, the toys scattered on the floor, the photos Amanda had taped to the wall, her mother, her sister, Joy as a newborn. You have family, he observed. Not close by. My mother's in Chicago. My sister's deployed overseas. He nodded slowly, still studying the photos. My sister's name was Mafia. She drowned in a pool at my father's estate while I was supposed to be watching her. I was 14. I'd gotten distracted by a phone call, something I thought was important at the time. By the time I found her, it was too late. Amanda's breath caught. That wasn't your fault. You were a child. My father didn't see it that way. Neither did I. Seon Jum's voice remained even, but his hands had curled into fists at his sides. I built everything I am now on the promise that I would never fail to protect someone again. Never be distracted. Never be soft. Never care enough to lose. That's not living, Amanda said quietly. That's just surviving. His eyes found hers. It's kept me alive. From the bedroom, Joy made a small sound. Not crying, just stirring. Before Amanda could move, Seon Jum was already walking toward the doorway, drawn like gravity. Joy was sitting up in her crib, rubbing her eyes. When she saw Seon Jum, her face lit up with pure delight. She reached for him immediately, saying something that sounded almost like a word but wasn't quite. He picked her up without hesitation this time, held her with growing confidence. Joy wrapped her arms around his neck and squeezed, the way she did with Amanda when she was feeling affectionate. Amanda watched Seon Jum's expression crack, watched him close his eyes and just hold her daughter like she was an anchor, keeping him tethered to something he'd thought he'd lost forever. "She makes me remember," he said, so quietly Amanda almost missed it. What it felt like before. Before what? Before I became this. The moment shattered when Seon Jum's phone buzzed. He checked it and whatever he read made his entire body go rigid. He handed Joy back to Amanda with movements that had turned mechanical. "Lock your door tonight," he said, already heading for the exit. "Don't open it for anyone except me or Minho." "Who's Minho?" "My head of security." Tall, scar on his right hand. "If anyone else tries to enter, you scream." Terror flooded Amanda's veins. "What's happening?" "Nothing that concerns you." But his eyes told a different story. "Stay in this room. Don't leave for any reason." He was gone before she could ask anything else. That night, Amanda didn't sleep at all. She pushed the dresser in front of the door and sat in the chair beside Joy's crib with a knife from the kitchen clutched in her trembling hand. Outside, she heard footsteps. Voices. Once, around 3 in the morning, what sounded like shouting from somewhere below. When dawn finally came, the house had gone silent in a way that felt wrong. Amanda waited until 7 before moving the dresser and cracking open the door. The hallway was empty except for 2 guards she'd never seen before, both wearing expressions that made her pull back inside immediately. She texted the housekeeper who sometimes watched Joy. No response. She tried the kitchen staff. Nothing. By noon, Joy was hungry and fussy, and they were running out of supplies. Amanda had no choice. She had to risk it. She was halfway down the corridor toward the main staircase when she heard it, glass shattering somewhere below. Then gunfire, sharp, unmistakable, close. Amanda ran, grabbed Joy from where she'd left her with a guard who now lay slumped against the wall, grabbed the emergency bag she'd packed months ago out of habit and paranoia, and sprinted toward the back staircase. The house had become a war zone. She could hear men shouting in Korean, could smell gunpowder, and something chemical that burned her throat. Joy was screaming now, terrified, and Amanda couldn't comfort her, could only run. They made it to the 2nd floor before she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy. Multiple. Not running away, running toward. There, someone shouted. The woman and the child. Amanda's blood turned to ice. She pushed through a door, found herself in a guest suite she'd cleaned 100 times. She locked the door, pushed furniture against it, backed into the bathroom with Joy clutched to her chest. This was it. This was how it ended. The door burst open. Wood splintered. Men's voices filled the room, cold and efficient. Amanda pressed herself into the corner, wrapped her body around Joy, and prayed. The bathroom door opened. A man stepped through, mid-30s, expensive suit ruined by blood spatter, gun raised. His eyes found them immediately. "Please," Amanda whispered. "She's just a baby. Please." "I know who she is," the man said in accented English. "That's why we're here." He raised the gun. The shot came from behind him. The man dropped, and there was Seon Jum in the doorway, blood streaming from a wound in his shoulder, his own weapon still raised. His eyes found Amanda, found Joy, and something in his expression shifted from cold calculation to raw desperation. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough, strained. Amanda shook her head, couldn't speak. More gunfire erupted from the hallway. Seon Jum moved into the bathroom, positioned himself between them and the door. "There are more coming. We need to move." "Why are they targeting her?" Amanda managed. "Because she matters to me. Because they've been watching. Because they know the fastest way to hurt me is through what I care about." He glanced back at them. I should have sent you away the moment I realized. I was selfish. I'm sorry. Joy had stopped crying. She was staring at Seon Jum with wide eyes, reaching for him despite the blood, despite the violence, despite everything that should have made her afraid. He took her with his uninjured arm, held her close. Stay behind me. Don't stop running until we're in the safe room. They moved through chaos. Bodies in the hallways, some wearing Seon Jum's colors, some not.
Smoke thick enough to choke on.
The sound of the house tearing itself apart. Seon Jum fought through it all. Wounded, exhausted, but relentless. He moved like violence made flesh, clearing their path, keeping himself between danger and the child in his arms. They were almost to the safe room when the second shot hit him. He stumbled, nearly fell, but stayed upright through sheer force of will. Run, he told Amanda, his voice weakening. Code is 0324. Lock yourself in. Minho will come. I'm not leaving you. You have to.
Joy made a sound then. Not crying.
Not babbling. A word, clear and unmistakable. Appa. Korean for father. Seon Jum froze. Stared at the child in his arms with an expression of absolute devastation. She chose you, Amanda whispered. She's been choosing you from the beginning.
His jaw tightened.
He straightened despite the wounds, despite the blood loss, despite everything trying to drag him down. Then I won't fail her. They made it to the safe room. Seon Jum held the door while Amanda and Joy got inside, then collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. You need a hospital, Amanda said, already looking for first aid supplies. I need to make sure you're safe first. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, made 3 calls in rapid Korean. When he was done, he looked at Amanda with something that might have been peace. It's over. My people won the house back. The ones who came for you are dead or captured. Joy crawled over to him, put her small hand on his chest where blood had soaked through his shirt. Appa, she said again, like she was testing the word, like she was claiming him. Seon Jum's hand covered hers, dwarfing it completely. I don't deserve this, he whispered. I don't deserve either of you. Maybe not, Amanda said, her own voice breaking. But she doesn't care about what you deserve. She just knows what she feels. And you. His eyes found hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. What do you feel? Amanda thought about the past weeks. The fear, yes, but also the strange safety of being seen by someone who understood what it meant to hide. The gifts left outside her door. The way he held her daughter, like she was precious. The way he'd put himself between them and death, without hesitation. I feel like maybe we're all trying to survive, she said. And maybe we don't have to do it alone anymore. Joy had fallen asleep against his chest, exhausted by terror and relief. Seon Jum wrapped his arm around her, then reached his other hand toward Amanda. She took it, let him pull her close, and the 3 of them sat there in the safe room while the house settled into silence around them. I want this, Seon Jum said finally. Not the power. Not the empire.
This. You.
Her. A reason to build something instead of just destroying. It won't be easy, Amanda warned. The world you live in. I'll burn it all down if I have to. Start over. Be someone she can be proud of when she's old enough to understand. Appa. Joy murmured in her sleep, and Seon Jum's eyes closed. When Minho finally came, he found them like that. A damaged man, a terrified woman, and a child who'd somehow known exactly who needed saving. Not the nanny and her employer. Not the Mafia boss and his staff. A family, fragile and new and held together by trust that shouldn't have existed but did. The house is secure, Minho reported. Medical team is waiting. Seon Jum nodded but didn't move. They come with me. Both of them. Wherever I go, they go. That's not negotiable. Understood, sir. Amanda helped him stand, supported his weight while he cradled Joy. They walked out of that safe room together, and when staff and guards saw them, they didn't see a boss returning. They saw something that changed the rules of everything they thought they knew. 3 months later, the mansion had been rebuilt. Security doubled. Alliances redrawn. But the biggest change was the family quarters that now housed 3 people instead of 1. Was the sound of Joy's laughter echoing through halls that had once known only silence. Was Amanda's art on the walls and her voice joining Seon Jum's in decisions that shaped their future. Was the way Seon Jum would leave meetings early to read Joy bedtime stories. The way Amanda had stopped flinching when he entered a room. The way Joy called them both by name, Appa, Mama, with equal certainty. The world outside still whispered about the feared Mafia boss. But inside those walls, he was just a man trying to be worthy of a child's trust and a woman's forgiveness. And sometimes, late at night when Joy was asleep between them, Seon Jum would look at Amanda and whisper, "Thank you for not running." And she would answer, "Thank you for giving us a reason to stay." It wasn't the life either of them had planned, but it was the life they'd chosen. Built not on fear or power, but on the impossible truth that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is let yourself be saved. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going.